Hi, welcome to the August 10th meeting of the Zoning Board of Examiners and Appeals. We'll call the meeting to order. Can we do the roll call, please?
Timothy Vig.
Here.
Dean Cars.
Here.
Ellen McKay.
Here.
Ken Ayers.
Here.
Tanya Hickok. Here. Dave Hale.
Here.
Lisa Dole. Stephanie Eicher has been excused. Thank you.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Can we get a motion to approve? Mr. Cars, do we have a second? We have a second, Mr. Vig. Is there any discussion on the minutes, any changes or edits? Seeing none, does anyone have any objection to approval of the minutes as submitted? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Item C, special order of business. I don't believe we have any, right? Disclosures. We have disclosures, right? Do we have disclosures? Mr. Vig?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was absent for the July 13th meeting and did not have an opportunity to listen to the case on Granicus. So I'll abstain from voting on the resolution.
Same thing as Mr. Vig.
Okay, so we don't have a quorum for that, so we'll have to do that next time. So we'll put that off till next meeting to approve the minutes for last time. Okay, on the consent agenda, would anybody like to pull anything out of there? That's this one here.
Yeah, so now we have, just make a note that we don't have a quorum to act on it, and that was the only thing on the consent agenda.
Oh, that's right. Same. Yeah, that's the only thing we have on the consent agenda is the approval of the resolution from last time, so we don't have a quorum to vote on it. We'll have to push that till next time, too. Add that to the list. Do we have any unfinished business or actions anybody knows about? Nope. So we'll move on to the regular agenda. I think we've got enough people for that. So just so everybody knows how this works, we're just, we'll introduce the case, the staff will talk about it, the public and representatives will have an opportunity to talk. If you're representing yourself, you'll have 10 minutes to talk. You can reserve time if you don't use it all for rebuttal, if there is any. So the first case is going to be case number 2017-0090 for Mr. Joe Osterman. Let's see. So will the staff please let us know what notice was given?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the sufficiency of notice. The Planning Department mailed 254 public hearing notices on July 3rd. 5 letters of support were received for the variance request. Those letters were from abutting neighbors and can be found on page 31, beginning on page 31 of your packet. The South Addition Community Council did not comment, and there were no letters in opposition.
Thank you. Does anyone have any objections to the sufficiency of the notice in this case? Don't see any. So will you please present the case?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just at the outset, I'd say that a reminder that the code requires a majority of the fully constituted board to find that the variance approval criteria, standards of approval are met. Fully constituted board is 9, therefore 5 positive votes are needed to pass a variance. Also, many applications for a zoning variance occur after the fact. Specifically about this case, the property owner has not made any improvements to his property. He's following sort of the right order of operations to request a variance in advance of any development. Pages 6 and 7 of your packet show the as-built to the property as it is today, showing the shop and shed and garage, and he has a proposed site plan on the following page, page 7, showing what he would like to build. And as you can see from those pages, it eliminates the side encroachment that exists, and it reduces the rear yard encroachment. This is a request for a variance from the dimensional standards for residential districts to allow a new 2-car garage to encroach 5 feet into the required 10-foot rear setback. There's an existing carport, garage, shop that was constructed in 1958 in the same location as the new proposed garage. The existing structure would lose its non-conforming rights for its existing encroachments into the side and rear setbacks when it is removed and remodeled, The new 2-car garage would eliminate the existing side setback and reduce the rear setback to reduce the rear setback encroachment by 1.8 feet. The department finds that standard 1 is met. A functional 2-car garage is not possible on this lot unless it is allowed to be placed further back on the lot, and this is because of the location of the house and the narrowness of the lot. Standard 2 is met. There is not enough space for the vehicle to make a turn around the house. If a new garage were to be required to meet all the required setbacks, the inability to have a detached 2-car garage on this lot is an undue hardship on the property owner. Standard 3 is met. Replacement of the existing carport garage shop from 1958 with a modern 2-car garage necessitates the granting of this variance. Also, garages are a necessary amenity for living in northern climates. Standard number 4 is met. It will not be injurious to any neighbors or detrimental to public welfare. Standard 5 is met. The variance will not change the character of this zoning district. Standard 6 is met. There's no identified health or safety issues with this property. 7 is also met. It's not related to ADA accessibility or reasonable accommodation. Standard 8 is met. The property owner is seeking to replace a legally non-conforming carport garage/shop with a new 2-car garage. The new structure will eliminate an existing side setback encroachment and reduce the rear yard encroachment by 1.8 feet. The R2D district allows a maximum lot coverage of 40% for all buildings. The proposed 2-car garage would result in this lot having a total lot coverage of only 29%. Therefore, the department finds that all 8 of the approval criteria are met and is recommending approval subject to conditions 1 and 2, which are standard conditions of approval. That's on page 5 of your packets. Be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Does any of the board have questions for staff? Ms. Hickok?
Through the chair, Mr. McLaughlin, there appears to be a deck on the side yard setback on the south side. Is that a less than 42-inch deck? Or is it a second floor deck?
Through the chair, Ms. Hickok, there are a number of, I think, other issues with the property, but all have established non-conforming rights.
Okay.
It's an older neighborhood, and it's an older existing home.
Mr. Ayers?
Through the chair, Mr. McLaughlin. Noticed on page 28 of the packet, AWW had a condition for their non-objection. I noticed there's a letter to that effect in the packet as well to Mr. Osterman directly. Has that been resolved? Was there a need for a condition there?
Garage. Through the chair, Mr. Ayers, you caught me a little bit off guard with that one. Because I'm trying to remember how this was resolved. AWU has no objection to the variance as long as the detached garage is constructed with a 58-inch tall rear foundation wall. I've not made that a condition of approval, and I know that the applicant provided a letter of non-objection from the affected utilities. So if you allow me some time to think on that, maybe the applicant can address that as well. Would that satisfy your concern?
Sure. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to the public testimony. The applicant has 10 minutes. So will the applicant please come forward, state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Mr. Chair, thank you. My name is Joe Osterman, J-O-E, last name A-U-S-T-E-R-M-A-N. And I guess I would like to first address Mr. Ayers' question with regard to the condition from AWWU. So we met with them and talked about a potential plan. This improves their situation quite a bit. Right now we're in some parts less than 3 feet off the property line and pretty close to their utility. So we worked out their plans for the future. If possible, they would like to vacate that utility. That hasn't been determined yet. But the detail of that plan, actually the utility's a little bit into our rear neighbor's yard, and this allows us to move forward with our project and really give them the confidence that if they had to access that utility, they would be able to, and that's one of the reasons why we got a letter of non-objection. We worked with them for a couple months on this. The 58-inch foundation is a condition where if they had to go access the utility, in our situation, one of the reasons why they're considering abandoning that is the utility is only 4 feet in the ground. To take it further and bring it to their current standards doesn't allow for proper flow. So that's a consideration that they're grappling with, which is why at 58 inches, if they had to access that, they wouldn't do anything detrimental to our foundation. So the back wall, the rear foundation wall that goes in the ground would allow them to dig around it and not impact our project, as well as allow them to move forward with any construction that they may have to embark on. Does that answer your question?
Through the chair. Yes, Mr. Osterman, it does, although it still leaves the item open that it may not be actually resolved in writing.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yeah, I apologize for not having this figured out in advance. Page 19 of your packet carries forward that same comment that the encroachment into the setback, it's a letter of non-objection to the encroachment subject to them providing the same 58 inches below ground. We can either craft a condition of approval or with Mr. Osterman's building permit, I can highlight this and add it to the building permit package. I'm just trying to figure out if because your guys' resolution and those conditions of approval will stand for forever, you know? And so we want to give them flexibility to deal with this in the future. So it would either have to be a carefully worded condition of approval or essentially making sure that this is handed to the structural inspector with the forthcoming building permit. I'm not sure which way to go.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? Mr. Chair?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Is the concern that the criteria in the letter of non-objection from AWWU is not properly reflected in the city's recommendation for approval? Is that the concern?
Through the chair, my concern is that there was a condition under their memorandum dated June 23rd that echoes the condition in their letter of May 25th. And if it's been resolved somehow, that's not reflected in the packet or the information that I have in front of me.
So basically, it's an accounting thing. So with any resolutions, we need to be able to, at the end of it, when you're all done, you need to be able to count it and check it off.
Okay.
So if we were to include it as a condition of approval, we just need to word it in some way that you would get some sign off from AWU that they don't object and you have met all the conditions from the previous letter, and that would just be a condition of approval if we decided we wanted to add it.
Rear wall.
Understood.
Is that about right, Ken? Or?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted an answer to the question. I haven't made up a decision on whether or not I would amend the recommendations of the conditions of approval or approve the variance yet.
Okay, so do you have more to talk about besides that?
I guess just to reinforce Mr. McLaughlin's comments, Mr. Chair. As simple as this may seem, right? Of course, these things are never as simple as they first appear. We're looking for an opportunity to take currently legal non-conforming structure as recognized by the city, make an improvement, bring that more in conformity as recognized by Title 21 through this process. And the only reason, as Mr. McLaughlin stated, that we're looking for a dimensional variance is to bring the property to the highest and practical use, and bring a 1958 structure and replace that with an improved two-car garage. If you look at the as-built from the original, not the proposed, but the original, probably in about 1970, before we had the house, there was an addition done to the north end of it. So the existing structure used to be their garage. Once they did that addition, it was no longer accessible to them as well. And so the closer you bring the structure to the house, the more difficult it would be and the less practical it would be for two cars to access that new structure. So, we our neighbors are in favor of this. We really feel that this approach is the highest and best use of the property, and it really represents the best interest of all stakeholders, not just us. Our neighbors are in favor of this, and I think it brings the property to the highest and best value in the eyes of the city as well. To not have this option, we're not even sure what we would do. As you know, starting a project, whether if it's one car or two cars, there's a pretty substantial sunk cost involved. And where a one-car garage, it could be feasible with the under the current constraints of Title 21. I'm not really sure if it'd be financially practical to pursue. It would be a modest improvement to our house, but certainly not, the one that we are looking for. We love our house. We've continued. It's an old structure. The original structure was built in 1958. We've continued to do home improvements to it. We really enjoy it, and we would like to take that next step and take the old structure that was built in 1958 and replace that with something that complements the neighborhood as well as our standards of living a little bit better. Appreciate everybody's, certainly your commitment and dedication to the board. I also serve on boards. It's an honor to be a part of a board. They're also a lot of work, and I recognize that. I'm certainly appreciative here that you're here on our behalf tonight, and it looks like it's the only item on your agenda. Do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Vig does.
Yes, through the chair, Mr. Osterman. So you've spoken to or acknowledged the two letters from AWW that refer to the 58-inch rear foundation wall. Would you be willing to accept those were they to be imposed as a third condition of approval?
Absolutely. So that when we started this whole process, at first when we approached the city, they said, hey, you're going to have to work this out with AWWU. And so we went that way and worked with them. And I just assumed that their conditions were a requirement for us to move forward at all. When we go to get a building permit, I assumed that this would be attached to those conditions in some way, shape, or form. I didn't realize there was that separation between what they're requesting and what's going to be required and from your side. So, yeah, we've assumed that we're going to have to build a 58-inch foundation on the back wall, and if that's what's required to keep everybody happy, then it's also. The area, as you know, is an earthquake zone. We're not even sure if we're going to get approved for just a slab anyway. I think we're going to have to do a foundation no matter what, so we've always assumed that we're going to have to go into the soil with cinder block on our project for the city to sign off on it. So the 58-inch foundation was not a big surprise to me anyway.
Mr. McLaughlin? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I sketched out 2 potential conditions of approval addressing the issue that Mr. Ayers, Commissioner Ayers raised. One is sort of a detailed one explaining how many inches and blah, 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 that the design of the foundation wall. An alternative, which is simpler, and allows a little bit more flexibility, is simply a declarative sentence that says, foundation walls within the sewer easement must be approved by AWU. And that would require AWU's sign off to a plan before a building permit could be issued. It seems like the way to go. Foundation walls within the sewer easement must be approved by AWU. That would address That would mean that no foundation would be issued for a permit, issued with a building permit unless AWU had signed off on the design for the foundation wall. It puts the owner at some risk that they have to receive approval from another agency, but seems maybe appropriate with this situation.
Thanks, Mr. McLaughlin.
Thank you.
Would you like to reserve your time? You have about 5 minutes if you want to reserve for a rebuttal. Not sure.
Well, just in closing, we are excited about this project if given the opportunity to move forward with it. We do think that it is the approach achieves the highest and best value of the land downtown, considering the historical decisions that we've had to work around as we continue to improve upon the property. In the 17 years that we've owned it, this is probably the last step to bring this property up to the standards that all of our neighbors have also done. You know, it's a downtown property, and there's been a lot of remodels, and it's certainly a project. We're close with our neighbors. We've spoken to them about it. It's something that they certainly endorse. The current structure would be well received by at least 2 neighbors to see that one go away and replaced with something else. But again, a move forward plan with the expense of removing one structure and replacing it with another. Really just the way the property is laid out and the options that we have, it leaves us little choice but to consider the proposal that we have in front of you. Again, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate what you do. And if there are no further questions, I think that's all that I have.
Thank you. Does the staff have any rebuttal or questions?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing is closed and the matter will now rest with the board. May I have a positive motion, please? Ms. McKay.
I move that we grant a variance from AMC Table 2106-1 Dimensional Standards Residential Districts to allow a proposed shop to encroach 5 feet into the required 10-foot rear yard setback in the R2D district. Subject to conditions 1 and 2 on page 5 of the packet, plus And I would like to propose a little bit different wording for condition 3. Just design of the rear foundation wall must be approved by AWWU.
Is there a second? Mr. Carr seconds. Ms. McKay, would you like to speak to your motion?
I concur with the findings of the staff for all of the conditions, or all of the standards, excuse me, 1 through 8, and would like to commend the petitioner for coming to us before the project instead of after. Thank you very much.
Mr. Cars, do you have anything to add?
Just that I also agree with staff's findings and concur with the condition added by Ms. McKay, and will intend to support the motion.
Thank you. Is there other discussion by the board? No discussion, then we can vote. And the motion passes. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much, everybody.
And that's it for the public hearings. So for reports, all I have to say is there won't be a meeting in September. We don't have any cases. So the meeting minutes from last time and the consent agenda will be forwarded to the next meeting after that. Does the secretary have any comments? Mr. Vick?
Did you say the meeting minutes would be?
From last, they're going to be carried through.
Not the meeting minutes. The resolution would be, but we approved the minutes tonight.
The minutes, just not.
All right, I'm confused. Huh?
But we could approve the minutes. It's not required to be present at the meeting or listen to the recording to approve the minutes.
You did because.
So we did approve the minutes, but we could not approve the resolution.
You do not have to be present for the minute to approve the minutes.
Okay.
Just the resolution, because of the findings and everything else.
So we'll just carry forward the
The rest.
resolution? Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's why the disclosures come after the meeting minutes and the agenda.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Vig, I appreciate that. Is there any other comments? Could we get a motion to adjourn? Mr. Cars. And Ms. McKay seconds. Is there any objection? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.